You can get yours over at CraigTheWriterStewart.com. Hey, girl, hey. Hey, girl, hey. Hey, everybody. You have your copy of Book of Jules ready? Hey, niece. Hey, girl, hey. This is what we're discussing tonight. Hey, girl, hey. Hey, boy, hey. I did not get a chance to situate my situation. I literally just got in from the park. Cynthia, we're going to be discussing the dedication tonight from Book of Jules, and I'm going to be bringing you guys online. I'm going to bring on as many as I can so we can talk about the dedication. I want to hear your questions. I want to get your feedback. Excuse me. I want to know what you were thinking. All of those things. So hopefully you have your notes and your questions, and we're going to bring on as many people as possible. I'm just trying to give people time to come in. Hey, girl, hey. Hey, boy, hey. Those of you that purchased books yesterday, you should have them today. Nikki shipped them out yesterday. Okay. YouTube just got the notification. Hey, girl, hey. Get your copy of Book of Jules. We're going to be discussing the dedication. Can you tell how excited I am? I'm so excited. What's up, y'all? Get your copies of Book of Jules. Please hit the share button. Please hit the share button. Please hit the like button. If you're on YouTube, please do me that favor. Because I've read the dedication, hold on. It is $5 Friday. Hey, girl, hey. Let me go do my thank yous really quickly. Kimberly Dooley, thank you so very much. Marcellus Davis, Kenise, thank you. Datis, Jose, Kimberly Browning, and Kawadis. Thank you very much. So I wanted to say that. So, of course, tonight is the very first discussion that we're going to have on Book of Jules. Tonight is the very first night. We're going to start with the dedication. I'm going to bring you guys online, and I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear your questions. I want to hear your comments. Here's the, I'm going to drop the link down here now. I just dropped the link down in the comments. Please click on that link if you'd like to join the conversation. But please, I need you to have earphones. I need you to connect your computer or your phone to a headset. Otherwise, it's going to give us a really nasty feedback, okay? So there's the link. If you're going to join, please join, but have some headphones on. Please and thank you. So tonight we're going to discuss the dedication. Next Friday, we're going to be discussing chapter 1, which is life. And every Friday after that, we're going to be discussing each subsequent chapter after that. So you don't have to have the entire book finished, but I would like for you to have the chapter that we're discussing completed so that you can contribute to the conversation. So I'm going to bring on as many people as I can. I think I can bring on about 7 or 8 people at a time. We'll talk, and then I'll bring on some other people, or if you'd like to, if you're on and you want to step out, you can, and then I'll bring on someone else in your place. All right? Good day, thinkers, thought leaders, progressives, and dreamers. I'm Craig the Writer Stewart, and this is the Facebook and YouTube live versions of So Much to Say. These are my thoughts in my voice on black shit, white shit, gay shit, and everything in between. So I think it would only make sense for me to read an excerpt from the dedication. Okay, I'm not going to read the entire thing because I have read it to you guys before when I was still writing it. Well, I guess I could read it because it's only a few pages. I'll go ahead and read it. I've dropped the link down there again for those of you that want to join. Again, if you're going to join, please have some headphones so that you don't mess up everybody else. All right, so I'm going to read the dedication, and then I want to bring you guys on so that we can have a conversation. All right? Let me get me a little swallow of water to get my reading voice on. I just spilled some water. Did you guys see that? Please share the video, please. Thank you. Dedication. A love letter to Black people. You are the descendant of slaves that would not quit. Susan L. Taylor, former editor-in-chief of Essence magazine, spoke those words at Hampton University when I was an undergraduate. She continued by saying, there isn't anything you can't do. You are the descendant. You are here because they would not die. In the past, when I considered giving up in business or as a writer, because the road became difficult at times, I think about them, my people, and her words. I reminded myself that I could never give up because they couldn't, and because I have their blood running through my veins. I do it for them. I rely on their strength. It helps motivate me when I want to quit. I keep going because of them. Our strength as a people is recorded in history, and it is unmatched. I love everything there is about being Black. Our prevailing strength, resilience, adaptability, the rhythm with which we move and speak, our natural instinct to overcome, recreate, and survive. Our predecessors understand our potential in ways that some of us have yet to learn. It's the reason the playing field has always been uneven and why the finish line is constantly moving. They know that if the playing field ever became level, that we would be unstoppable. Moreover, their fear that we would do to them what they've done to us. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I didn't always love everything there is about Black people. Everything there is about us, everything about us as a people, I'm guilty of being harder, more judgmental of us than I should have been in the past. I was embarrassed by the ills of the community, the ghetto language with which some of us used to speak, the rising number of underage single mothers, deadbeat fathers, the inflated prison and addiction rates, the failing school systems, until I realized a few things. One, the media wanted Black people to see and believe those things about other Black people, even though these things weren't completely true. Two, it was my own concern about what white people saw and thought of us, until I divorced myself from those thoughts and any concern about the white gaze. Finally, I realized that we've been severely marginalized by a system designed to encourage us to fail because our potential is limitless. Despite all that we've been through, we survive with dignity while managing to produce greatness. We've managed to find some joy in our hardest moments in this country because we're magic. The world knows it. Many hate us because of it. We remain the envy of the world for our brilliance and genius. Thus, it's important to me that I use my gift to help rewrite the narrative of the Black experience in this country, without exception. In other words, it's important that I tell as much of our truth as possible, including the stuff that we don't enjoy hearing about ourselves because it's uncomfortable. It's my job as an artist because I see myself as more than a writer. It isn't my intention It isn't my intention to divide us or incite hate. My idea is to provoke you and anyone that comes into contact with my art to see things from a different perspective. Whether it's my podcast, So Much to Say, my books, or my stage plays, I want you to walk away from the experience feeling and thinking differently. As I write this dedication, this love letter to Black people, I realize that these words are like a dog whistle, sure to incite curiosity from anyone who isn't Black, questioning whether or not racism is at play here. The idea that I must despise white people because I love black people is absurd. It's crazy to think that racism is at play because I say out loud that I love black people. And if reading those words translates as white hate for you, then white privilege and whiteness are to blame for trying to rob me of my sense of pride and trying to colonize my blackness. It's not enough for me to say I'm not racist, because statements like that require proof that can only be verified through actions. The same is true when white people say, I don't see color, or some of my closest friends are black. Yet, some demonstrate biases based on race because color is the first thing we see. So to answer simply, because I'm for my people, So to answer simple, because I'm for my people doesn't mean I'm against anyone else. I just love black people and all that we've managed to accomplish with the scraps left behind for us, with which we've managed to make something out of nothing. I'm charged with the responsibility of being sweeter and kinder to, and more supportive of people of color because we've been excluded from so much. We deserve that from each other at the very least. I'm ready to see us win in a major way because we haven't enjoyed the luxury or stability of intergenerational wealth at a scale equal to that of white people. I'm really clear, like most black people, that shit isn't going well for us in this country. And it's been going wrong for quite some time. I think it's safe to say that many of us are disturbed by very specific systems of racism, gentrification, the prison system, the disparities in education, and within politics, to name a few. It would require too much from me to dismantle each of these systems. But I will say, if you haven't already seen the documentary 13th, From Slave to Freedom on Netflix, then please do so. It's a really great start to understand the Black experience in the United States. It does a beautiful job of showing how the prison system in this country is really an extension of slavery in a modern form. The disadvantages and disparities that we face as a people are evidenced in the news, television programming, and award shows that purport to promote excellence, but somehow manage to exclude Black and brown people systematically. White skin doesn't influence what white people feel when they see unarmed Black people being shot down in the streets by cops. Their experiences do. White people who recognize these injustices aren't offended by these truths because they are equally outraged and honest enough with themselves to acknowledge that there's a problem in this country between the police and criminal justice systems and communities of color. This book is dedicated to the memory of Trayvon Benjamin Martin. I remember forever where I was and everything I felt when the verdict was announced. I had no words. Anger and melancholy left me speechless. A day later, I was challenged to create more purposeful work that provokes change and illuminates evil, hate, and fear, similar to that which snuffed a light so bright. A hero emerged that night. You, Trayvon. You forced us all to take a closer look at ourselves individually and as a community and as a people. Your life mattered. These words are for you, recorded forever in history, gone but never forgotten. These names have been etched in our hearts and minds, recorded in history, never to be forgotten. Amadou Diallo, Sean Bell, Oscar Grant, Rekia Boyd, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, Laquan McDonald, Philando Castillo, Freddie Gray, Sandra Bland, Alton Sterling, and many others. So that is the dedication. If you'd like to join the conversation, please click on the link that Andrew and I have been dropping down in the comments. Please do, though, please have some headphones so that we can hear you and you will not cause any type of disruption because it's going to give us a nasty feedback. All right. So right now, so far we have Toshi And we have Andrew. Hi, Toshi.
Hello.
Andrew, are you going to be joining us? Where is Andrew? I think here he is. All right.
I'm dropping comments everywhere.
Yeah, I saw that. So if you want to join in the conversation, please go ahead and drop the link down there. Until then, I'll have a conversation with Toshi and Andrew. But go ahead. What are you guys thinking? What when you read it, did you have any questions? Did you have any comments about it?
Okay, so I got the. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I got it on Audible probably about 2 weeks ago. Love the book. Just to say, I love it. And part of your dedication really fits in what's going on right now with this coronavirus. Everybody being isolated, and everybody is just in chaos and mayhem.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I said that, because at the beginning you talk about how we need to think about our ancestors. They've been through a whole lot worse. So, we got to think like that and be like, they overcame a whole lot worse than what we're going through right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I felt the beginning of the dedication kind of tied into what's going on today.
Andrew, what are you doing over there making all that noise in the background?
I am so sorry.
Jeez. But no, but yeah, Toshi, I appreciate that. And that was a part of what, because you guys know that I've been writing this book now for probably about 7 years. It took me I had started writing it about 7 years ago. I literally had started writing it after I wrote Words Never Spoken, but before I started writing One Thing for Certain, Two Things for Sure. And I ended up putting Book of Jewels down. I knew the name of the book. I knew all of those things. But there were things that I knew I needed to write in the book that I wasn't quite prepared to write, not because of an emotional thing, but because I hadn't grown to that level. There were things that I knew I wanted to say, but I didn't have the capacity to say it at the time. I didn't have the words at the time. There was more living that I needed to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
In many of the chapters, like the life chapter, which we'll be talking about next Friday, there were the bones of that chapter were there. Like most of what you guys see, I had that written many years ago. Now, of course, I've gone back in and I've rewritten things and added things and changed things and deleted things. But the framework was there. But there were chapters like Passion, Fate, and Destiny that I really didn't know where I was going with it. The death chapter, I had something in there, but I ended up scrapping that. And so there were things that I needed to articulate. But the dedication, the bones of that was there long ago too. Now there were things that I added in because over the years, over the past 7 years, so many things have happened, so many things have changed. So I ended up writing, other things in there, but I wanted to speak to Black people. And I've said this before, all of my books are for anybody that's interested in reading, right? Mm-hmm. But when I sit down to write, I write with Black people in mind and Black gay men in mind. Now the work can go to anybody. I don't care who reads it. And that hence what I say in the promotion video for Book of Jewels. Anyone can read it. Like I have Toni Morrison. I use her words to say it. The books are for anyone. I hope everyone reads the books. But I literally, think about Black folks when I'm writing, when I'm sitting down to write. Hey, Delise.
Mm-hmm.
Hi.
Do you have headphones, Delisa?
No, I have them. I just don't have them on.
Oh, okay. Right now.
I have them. I just don't have them on.
I hear your television though.
Right.
But go ahead, Andrew. Did you have something you wanted to add, or Delisa, either one?
I had something, yeah. So I'm gonna read this part. It's just a short part. You just read it, but it says, "I love Black people, and if reading those words translate as white hate for you, then white privilege and whiteness are to blame for trying to rob me of my sense of pride and trying to colonize my Blackness." And so when I first read that, you get the feels. You're like, yes, power to the people. I love Blackness. But then you wake up on Monday morning and have to enter into corporate America. So I don't know. I know it's been a while since you probably worked in corporate America, but do you have any advice for someone that can't really get away from that? Because it is there are some things that I don't say in certain meetings, or I stray away because it's like, you still sign my check. You know, so different things. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, but so different things that I don't say or I don't bring up. Like I'll do subtle things, like I'll send out an email to my team, and we put a quote at the end. So like Black History Month, I made sure I put a lot of black, you know, quotes and things like that. But how do you? Is there a way to be strong, or do you just have to be on your own?
Well, I
Like,
think any of you can answer, but I can give you an answer. What I would say is you absolutely have to choose your battle. Because she disappeared. I think she got off because of the baby. But you definitely have to choose your battles, because you can't make everything a militant thing in corporate America, especially when you're working for a white company. Now, I'm not saying at all that you should shrink. I wouldn't suggest that at all. I think that you definitely stand for what you believe in. And if it starts to compromise the integrity of who you are, then the question becomes, is this the company that I still need to work for? Because in 2020, most companies have moved towards diversity. So it might be a conversation that you might need to have with your HR department about creating some sort of a diversity program, or, you know, something, or even being the person who start that, to initiate that. But to your point, I went to have a punani today. I went to my place today. And because of the whole coronavirus, you have to order they now have this thing where you order online, but because of the coronavirus, they're not allowing people to come in, even if you order online. So what they do is you order online, and then you get to the door, and then they'll come out and they'll call your number, and then they'll give you your food. They're not letting you come in. And so there was a Black girl there today, and it was a bunch of us standing there waiting for our order to come out, right? And the guy said to her, he said, hey sis, he said, what's your name? What's your order number? And she said, well, I actually didn't order it. My wife did. And remember I said to you guys last week that there are still moments, even as an out Black gay person, who's written books about his sexuality, who gets on here and streams about it and talks about it. My family know I moved through the world as a gay man, but there are still things that trigger me. Remember I said to you, last week or the week before, that the same things that triggered me when I was 20, when I first came, or 22, when I first came into the community, aren't some of the same things, but there are still things that trigger me. I don't know if I could have said that. I don't know if I could have said, oh, my boyfriend ordered it, but she stood in her gayness and she said, oh, my wife ordered it. Let me see what you, and I was just like, you better work. I just kind of thought to myself, because it was just Black people on the porch. And I know that there were other people who probably tensed up when she said it, just like I did. But so I think the same is true for those of you that work in corporate America, that, you got to stand in your truth as a Black person, but also don't get to the point where you become this argumentative person at work where, you know what I'm saying, where you compromising your livelihood, but also not shrinking. It's about creating that balance. Danielle ASB said, what resonated for me was we've managed to accomplish with the scraps left behind for us, with which we've managed to make something out of nothing. Mm-hmm. Yes, Danielle. I wish, Danielle, do you have headphones? It would be nice if you could come on and join the conversation. And if you guys want to join the conversation, I'm dropping the link down there now so that you can just click on that link. But please have some headphones so that we don't get the feedback.
Right.
But yeah, so that was really important for me to write this and make it, because the last thing that I wrote was a love letter to Black people. Like, I had already written the dedication, but then I came back and said, I want to say a love letter to Black people, because there was a time that I was very afraid to speak so boldly to Black people.
Yeah.
Because I was afraid that if I alienated myself from the general public, from white folks, that I wouldn't be able to survive as a writer.
It even happened when I was posting like the trailer for your book, because the trailer has a lot of, black and this and that. And when I, of course, watching it, you get the feels and you're like, oh my God, this is it. And then there was hesitation hitting that share button, because it's like, I have some of my people I work with, and is this going to cause them to look at me as if like, oh, well, he's the, we can't say stuff around him, or we can't, So I was like, but I went ahead and shared it and whatever. And I was like, whatever, this is my thing. But there was that hesitation, like, oh, what are they going to think?
And
so it's like,
interestingly enough, like there were people friends of mine that I asked to post, the trailer for me or the promo video. And they said, well, I'm not out at work. And I'm just like, okay. But you can't push people beyond their comfort. But for me, it was hard at first to write so quote unquote black or write so directly to black people, because I was afraid that if black folks didn't support me, then I wouldn't have any support, because white folks would feel alienated by the whole thing. But for me, it was Toni Morrison that really truly did give me the courage to say those things, because long before I put this book out, I was watching some of her stuff on YouTube, some of her interviews and things like that. And I remember her talking to Charlie Rose, which is where I got that clip that's in the promo video for Book of Jewels, where she says, I write for black people, and it doesn't mean that no one else can read it, but when I sit down to write, I'm writing to speak to black people. And so it was important for me to be able to get the courage to say that. And I've said to you guys before, I've shared before on the live, that when I was doing my stage play, A Day in the Life, many years ago, the primary cast, the central characters were black, because it was about 6 gay men. And I wanted to speak directly to black gay men. And so I wanted those characters, those actors, to also be black. And I remember people saying to me, you need to diversify your cast. You need some white characters in there, because you're not going to have a sellout show, because black folks aren't really ready to talk about homosexuality. Because remember, this was 2002. And they kept saying, you need to get some white folks in the audience, and you need to diversify your cast. And I was very much so gung-ho on keeping my cast the way that it was, which I did. And the show ended up selling out. But, I just feel like we can't be so, because we do this in business too. Like if you're a black-owned business, a lot of times you feel like you have to really tiptoe around white folks, or you really have to cater to white folks to really gain their support and their approval and that kind of thing. Because sometimes we fear that the black dollar is not enough to sustain us. And it is. Because we buy more vehicles and clothes and hair products than anybody else. So the money is there. The strength in the dollar, the black dollar, is definitely there. You guys are quiet.
Who, us?
I keep going on. No, I have something to say. So I keep going on mute. But and that's why, because there's a difference between, because we have, some of us may have white friends, right? And so we have I don't want to put quotations, but we have white friends. And I remember, I think I was watching a Red Table Talk where Jada was like, it is not our responsibility. It was Jada or one of her guests. It may have been Ellen Pompey or whatever. But the basic message was, it's not our responsibility to educate white America on our struggles, and it is their responsibility to say, okay, what am I doing wrong? However, I have white co-workers that I travel with all the time. Like, we're together, we're on planes, we're in hotels. So I do find that I didn't come out the gate with it, but once you start establishing that relationship, you know that there's going to have to be some point where you're like, is this okay to talk about? Like, is it okay for me to say this? And then I have to say, it's okay for you to say that, but is it okay if I correct you? Or, will there still be animosity? But it's like, do you do the rule of just let's not talk about race at all, which I don't agree with. It's like, that's a factor in life. Or do you just, or do you make yourself responsible for educating them as you go along? Will they get tired? Will they say, "Oh my God," it's just a lot of decisions to make when you're working
Well,
in corporate America.
I think this too, Andrew. A lot of it comes with experience and age also, because you're probably younger than me and Craig, because me and Craig are the same age.
Uh-huh.
And I feel
43.
like, oh, are you? Okay.
No,
Okay.
no,
Well, I'm
No,
42.
no,
Oh, oh, okay. Well, I don't care telling my age. I'm hashtag 42 and just turned 42.
absolutely.
But
All right.
right. But the thing is this: I work in healthcare, and I've traveled, and I was born and raised in Rockford, Illinois area. Lived there 24 years. Moved to Alabama for 18 years, and I'm out here in Arizona now. I've been out here for a year. I done been all over the United States with my job. The job that I do, which in healthcare, I travel. So I've seen a diverse of different people. And over the years, as I got older, it's a lot I'm not going to tolerate either.
Mm-hmm.
To the point to where you like, do I educate? Some of these people know what they're doing, and they try to push you, or they try to tempt you. But there's a way to address it, and not in an ignorant way, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it comes with age and experience, and you'll fall into which way to address things. But I'm at the point in my life now, I'm not educating nobody on nothing, because if you don't know, you have social media, you know what's right and you know what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then me personally, I don't put up with a lot either. And I actually come from a biracial background. I was raised by a white grandmother.
Wow.
Who didn't act white, remind you. But I had to deal with that in the up north. Me and my brother would be in the store with this little white lady. I never looked at her different, and I don't look at color different now.
Mm-hmm.
I love all races, Hispanic, Black, any. I never mistreated anyone. But you're gonna run into that. I worked in certain parts of Texas where the Hispanics act like they were not the minority.
Oh, that's how it works.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute now.
In Miami too. In Miami too.
In California, they tried to treat the black folks like they were second-class citizens.
Exactly. So it's just
but there was something that you guys said earlier, and then I saw some comments over here from the audience. One of the things that you said, Andrew, about Ellen Pompeo when she was on Red Table Talk, and she said it's not the responsibility of black people to educate white folks on race and that kind of thing.
It was either Ellen or the lady. What's the white lady that does the It was a white lady guest that she does like interviews and stuff. I can't remember, but go ahead.
Yeah, but to that point, I feel the same way about gayness. I don't feel like as a gay person that I have to keep educating black people on it. Like I'm over having that conversation, because I just feel that in 2020, any white person that still needs an explanation or demonstration or examples that racism still exists, and any black person that I still have to explain to in 2020 that sexuality is instinctive, it's how we're wired, it's not a choice, it's not a decision, I'm done talking to you. Because it's intellectually lazy to not even see it for yourself, to not even go over to Google and look some of this stuff.
I think personally they try you. I really do. Some people try you.
I do. I truly believe that. And so at some point, I'm just like, I'm exhausted. Now, the other thing that you guys said, we were talking about a moment ago as well, about the whole black thing. When a black person owns a business, sometimes we overextend ourselves to a white customer. And we include white folks. And, we're so afraid to say that we cater our business to black people, or because I was afraid to say that I write for black people at one point. It's because, like the whole poor customer service thing that I talk about. And I say to you guys all the time how I hate when I go into a business and there's a black person that's working the counter or in customer service. They extend better customer service to somebody white than they do to me or to somebody black. Part of that is that same thing that I was speaking about a moment ago. It's that fear that if they don't have the support of white people, I need to go above and beyond for these white people. Because if I go above and beyond for them, then my business is not going to sustain. But the black dollar is just as important, if not more important.
Right.
I totally agree with that. And like you said, you have to kind of, when you're a business owner, you want to tap dance. But when it comes to our own folks, and I'll give you an example, some of these up and coming beauty supply stores who are actually owned by blacks, their prices are higher. Their prices are higher than the Asians.
Right.
And as for us, as for Black people, we like, I'll go down the street to the Asian shop because I can get this particular product for $2 cheaper. And it's like, you want to support your Black business, but it's like, honey, why are you charging me more than what the Asian? And I know you're getting it from the same place they're getting it.
Right.
So it makes it hard sometimes to a certain extent. And you don't know why they up their prices. It could be overhead or whatever the case may be. But it's like, why would I pay the extra $2 and $3 for this product when unfortunately I can go down to the Asians and pay $3 less?
I know. And I understand that pain of that too, because I remember there was a nail salon that I knew some people that owned a nail salon. It was a Black owned place, and their pedicures or their manicures, they started at $35 just for the manicure. And you're like, well, damn, like you go over here to the Asians and get your pedicure for $20. You know what I'm saying? So it was just so many things. But sometimes, and not all the time, sometimes our pricing is higher because we don't always know how to price our things. Sometimes, and sometimes we just don't. I'm gonna give you another example. I remember when I was back at home, I went to a farmer's market and there was a girl, and I was doing my lives at the time. And some of you that have been watching me on Facebook for a while, you're probably gonna remember this. But there was a girl, it was a Black girl. She had a jam. It was a homemade jam that she made, and it was like a ginger blueberry. It was amazing. She gave me a sample and everything, and I tasted it, and it was so good. But the jam, and I supported it because I said to her, I said, listen, I'm gonna support you because you're a Black girl. And I'm a Black guy, and and I want to support you. Baby, that small ass bottle of jam was $10. I said, now I'm gonna buy it today. I wouldn't be able to buy this all the time because it was a small thing. And sometimes I just think that we don't know how to see. Somebody on Facebook said, I remember that. Sometimes we don't know how to price our things. We don't know how to. We just want to factor in the profit. We just figure out how much we want to make from it. And we don't really know how to do fair pricing. And so then sometimes we outprice ourselves, and then we end up going and shopping someplace else.
Part of that is because we don't listen. Sorry. Because we don't listen. We don't, sometimes we don't want to learn the correct way to do it. And I want to read something because I'm going to shift it just a little bit. It's still on topic, but it says, I'm ready to see us win. And I know this is a touchy subject, but I'm ready to see us win in a major way because we haven't enjoyed the luxury or stability of intergenerational wealth at a scale equal of that of white folks. So my question to that is, I don't even want to ask, but so in this part, you were talking, because I understand that there's a difference between talking about what hasn't been allowed to us or allowed for us versus what we haven't yet journeyed into or taken the initiative to step into what is available to us. So is it right? Because I've heard two things, and some people say, well, it's not right to point the finger at yourself. We've never had it. But is it okay to say that? How do we get to a place where we start changing that generational, where we start creating that generational wealth, that we say, okay, I'm not going to be foolish with my finances and I'm going to put this away for the next generation? Like, is that okay to say in this space? Or is it that we shouldn't say that in spaces where white people are, because then they take that as, oh, see, it's their fault, if you get what I'm saying?
No, I get that. Totally get what you're saying. I think personally, I think this. We as Black people don't educate ourselves. We want somebody to do it for us. To the point of, let me give you an example of business credit.
Come on,
they're starting to roll out business. The business credit been going on for years. The white man been using it for years, not even using their own money to grow their business. We just starting to figure out business credit in the last 4 or 5 years. And that's because we didn't educate ourselves. And they won't give us the grant. The banks won't give us this. We never educated ourselves on business credit as a business owners to get that money. Unfortunately, the white man been doing it for years. And we could never figure out why they're getting ahead and all is able to get this house and buy these foreclosed, whatever the case may be, using other people's money. Sam Walton, Walmart did it for years. If you do your research, they big businesses. But the thing is, we never taught ourselves. No one was ever there to teach us. Prime example, Greg, you could probably vouch. Who taught us about credit growing up in our era? Nobody. We had to learn it ourselves. We had to mess our credit up and rebuild it back up.
Yeah,
because we were never taught that. We were never taught that.
right.
I made sure. I have a son that's 24 years old. I made sure I taught him that. We
Right.
were never, I personally never was taught how to write a check. I learned that in economic class my junior year in high school.
Yes.
That's just the generation that we came from, that we were never taught. That we were taught to get a job, work that job, find a good job, and meaning good job at back in my era, which will be the 70s and 80s, getting in Chrysler, maybe becoming a nurse, good jobs. That was considered good jobs. Now you can't even if you're a nurse or go in a factory, you'd be lucky if you got a job the next day. But that's what all we were taught. We were taught to survive.
And
we were just taught to survive.
And like Alicia just said, and when their money gets funny, they file bankruptcy and move on. Speaking of that, bankruptcy has changed.
Yeah.
You can file bankruptcy the way that you used to back in the day. Because see, too many of us started to find out how you could do it. You understand?
Right.
Because they killed it. They killed it. They made a fool of bankruptcy. And then they said, oh no, these Negroes, they're catching on now. You can't file under that, you can't file that. So they started to switch the rules. But to your point, Toshi, I saw an interview with Van Jones some time ago, and I've talked about this on my live before. And he was talking about how he went to law school, and he was going to this amazing law school. He went to like an Ivy League school. But he said, racism isn't always about what white folks do to you. It's also about the things that they exclude you from. Conversations that you're excluded from, the knowledge that you're excluded from. Because he was saying that when he was in undergraduate as a student, as a law student, there were certain privileges that he didn't have access to. A lot of his colleagues who were fellow law students, they had family members who were judges, who were lawyers, so they were able to go and work with them for the summer to get that experience. But he, as a Black student, didn't have any lawyers in his life that he could go and work for. So they had a head start straight from back then. You understand what I'm saying? So the generational wealth thing is not just about white folks being able to pass money down. You know what I'm saying? So then they end up on house hunters with $40,000 to put down on a deposit. It's also about that knowledge and wisdom that they're able to pass down.
Right, because I was talking to my manager yesterday, actually, and she was like telling me about her son, and we're going through this crisis thing, and she was like, my son was complaining, and I was like, and I was like, the message she's teaching is a little different, because she's teaching her son, look, you're complaining about the steaks we eat, you're complaining about, but there are some children that, they're struggling because of this, they're only going to eat breakfast and dinner, and you're complaining about the big meals we're having. And I began to think on the phone, and I was like, yeah, I was that boy. I was that young boy that didn't have, my mom had to stretch meals and we were eating the same thing. Or, we had, and it's just funny because now that I am where I am, when you start telling them these things, some of them don't believe me. It's almost like I don't take it as an insult, because when I get into it, like I'm telling the truth. Because some of them are like, what? Like, that's not true. You don't look like you've been through. And I'm like, no, that was my story. These are true things, but it's like they're teaching their children. They try to kind of teach them, but when I see it, it's just like a different thing for me, because it's like, okay, you're teaching them about my childhood or what I went through, or whatever.
And to be fair, I will say that there are white folks, and this is where privilege comes in, but there are white folks who are oblivious to some things because they just don't have to think about it. They don't have to consider it. But it goes back to the point that we were saying earlier. In 2020, it's intellectually lazy not to know.
But there's some Blacks that's like that too. I mean, I'm gonna tell you, and if anybody's on this broadcast is from Arizona, I'm sorry, but the Arizonians, the ones from here, they're oblivious to a lot of stuff, and unfortunately. And I'm pretty sure there's other places too, and I'm not knocking anybody, don't get me wrong, but they were just sheltered to the fact, or they just don't want to know.
What do you mean? An example of like Black folks that are oblivious?
Okay, some of my coworkers are from here, and the conversations that we have, they talk about they still say essays when they talk about Mexicans. Who still says that? I don't know. But you know, and I had to I'd be like, what? And then the things that they say, like, no, you shouldn't talk back. You shouldn't when our manager says something, you know, you shouldn't question that because, you know, we need to keep this job. And they look at you like you're not supposed to. And you know, me myself, I'm not gonna bite my tongue because if I lose my job, one door open, another one, you know, a better one. That's just me. That don't follow my lead, people. Because, but but that's just me. But the thing, and then there's their conversation. I mean, you know, just having conversation with them, I'll be like, are you kidding me? You know, are you really letting this go on? They let them run over them, and they act like they're afraid to. And it's like, and I'm always for the underdog. That's just my personality. And I'll be like, why are you allowing that to go on? Or why are you allowing them to say that to you like that? And then when I be like, I ain't doing it. And they'll be looking at me like, I'm like, no, I'm not doing it because that's going to risk my license. And they be like, well, I said, listen, let me tell you something. I'll go under the bus before the company will. They'll throw me under the bus. I know right from right. And then people don't read their handbooks. They don't know their rights at these jobs.
Right.
But my example, I don't want to go too deep, but just some of the unfortunately the Arizonian blacks, and I'm not knocking anybody if you're on this broadcast, this is what they know out west. And then with me being been all over, it's just like, are you kidding me? And then everybody lay up on their phones and look at Instagram and Facebook. You can't tell me you don't know this stuff.
Right. Right. And it's interesting the point that you make because, you know, I lived in LA. It's where I was when I wrote Words Never Spoken. And it's where one thing for certain, two things for sure picks up. When I lived in LA, what we were saying earlier, Hispanic folks almost treated Black folks like second-class citizens. And it was because I want to color this example, and I want to color this as simply as I can and as honestly as I can. But in Georgia, generally speaking, Hispanic folk, the Hispanic population that's here, typically work in the service industry, like restaurants. Some of them own restaurants, but some of them, a good percentage of them, work in restaurants that are not owned by them or their family, but they're bus boys and that kind of thing, right? But in California, majority are educated. They speak fluent English. Where here in Georgia, a lot of times it's broken English, but in California, they know the language, they're educated, they have corporate jobs, they're not just working blue-collar jobs. And there's this sense of entitlement that comes, that I sensed, that I felt, on more than one instance, in several different instances. And it was almost like the Black folks there shrunk. Not only did they shrink in they shrunk in the face of Hispanic folks. So I was working for this commuter train company. I want to say their name. But I worked for this commuter train company in LA. And when I tell you most of my coworkers were Hispanic. There were some Black folks too, but the Black folks, they were so afraid to speak up. And so we had what we called one-on-ones. So every month you had a one-on-one with your direct supervisor. And the purpose of it was to keep up morale and that kind of thing and discuss like what you love about the job and what needs improvement and, you know, that kind of thing, just whatever. And so the very first month that we had the one-on-one that I was there at the company, of course, you know, I kind of slid through and I just was very politically correct. And I was like, oh, because I really did enjoy working there when I first started. And I talked about how much I enjoyed it. And I literally enjoyed going to work every day. You know, I loved it. But then by that next month, that second month, oh, I had some things to say. You know, at this point, I had made some observations. I saw like a couple of the Hispanic girls, they were really good friends. They would leave during their lunch break and have these extended lunch because they'd go and get their nails done. And our supervisor was a white guy. Well, he was attracted to one of the Hispanic girls. And there was a picture on his desk at his cubicle where they all were out having drinks at a bar. So he was friends with them. And baby, when I tell you, it was one of those things where when I went to him and I started talking to him in my one-on-one about, now these were supposed to be confidential. When I went to him and was talking to him about the disparities and how they took these extended lunches and, you know, how, you know, I just felt like the workload wasn't balanced. And I just talked about the disparities. Well, the Black folks kept saying to me, please don't go in there and talk about it. Don't rock the boat, Craig, because these are LA people who were originally from LA. They were like, Craig, don't go in there rocking the boat. Here, I'll bring my black ass in there from the East Coast. And I was like, no, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say this. They're like, no, Craig, don't rock the boat. We notice everything that's going on. We just don't say anything. I said, well, if y'all don't say anything, it's never going to change. Well, I went in there and I spoke up about it. And guess whose black ass got fired? But not only did I get fired, but I sued them. I sued them. I went to the EEOC and the kid won. That's how you got words never spoken. That money that I got from that lawsuit, that ended up being the initial seed money that got me started with words.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Oh, I've always been. This is just a little key thing, guys. We got these smartphones. Whenever I got pulled in, every time I get pulled in a meeting, and it don't be bad, but always hit record on your phone and put it in your pocket or in your purse.
Yes.
You always hit record because they're gonna deny it to the end on a lot of stuff, and that's where you have the upper hand. Hit that record button. If like me, I wear scrubs, it goes right in my pocket.
Right.
Yeah, it just always hit. That's what smartphones. They're more than just smart. They're your backup also.
Yeah.
So
baby.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's just what you're gonna have to deal with. But part of the dedication too, I got some notes here. You had said how we are hard, like you said, hard on our community, and we stereotype, and we do that.
Yeah.
We look okay. I'm sitting here looking at what the coronavirus go, and then all of a sudden I'm like, look at all these, and I'm not knocking anybody. All these white kids out here in Florida at the beach, yada yada yada, fight, and then here come Louisiana, all them down in New Orleans clown, and I said, well, damn on it.
Carol, can you?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I just want to hear. I don't want to.
So he just wanted to come on camera. He couldn't sit over here wherever. He wanted to be sitting on the camera.
Wait, hold up, Craig. Hold up, man. Hold up. You are not gonna give me a hard time.
He just wanted to be on the camera. Oh, he closed it up.
Okay. But my thing is, with all types, how Craig, this question is for you. How can we get away from the stereotyping? Because when we see stuff like that, or we see a girl come in with her feet just sliding in these shoes, and you're like, oh my God, the air. So it's just like, oh my God, but you love your black people, but you see something that do this, and you be like, oh my God, here we go.
And that was what I was saying in the beginning of the dedication. There was a time that I didn't always love everything about black people, and I talk about the ills of the community. Excuse me, but what I realized was every community has stereotypes in the community. The problem is we don't own the media. We don't own television stations. We don't own television networks. I mean, Oprah got her network, but she's one network. You understand what I'm saying? We don't own media. So if we don't own media, we don't get to control what's disseminated out. Like I had this conversation with some friends the other day. Do you guys remember that song? All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Michael Jackson, when he said, sue me, everybody there. They listen, Sony Records is owned by Jews. They pulled that album. When he put that shit out, they pulled it from around the world. They made him go back into the studio and record it. If you don't believe me, go look for it. You're not going to find Jew Me, Sue Me nowhere, because they are in control of how their community is viewed. And if we owned media, we could alter the shape and the perception of how things come out about us. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I understand that Jewish people have alcoholics in that community. White folks have alcoholics in their community. Hispanic, we all have those same people that are criminal, people that are murderers, whatever. We can't get so bent out of shape because I literally used to cringe when I would see a black person that fit a stereotype, and it was somebody white there, and I was just, but I was so concerned with what they thought. But that's why I say in this dedication, until I divorced myself of what white people think, I no longer care about that. I was the same person who would watch a game show and saw somebody black on the game show say something stupid, and I'm like, oh my God, they didn't embarrass us in front of America. I don't care about that. Like that is not a reflection on me. When you realize and get to the bones of it and understand that it really it's less about them and more about what you think white people think about you. or about black people overall. I don't care about that, because if they're that ignorant to think that all black people are like that, then that's your ignorance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Like, damn it. Like, I'm not going to sit here and worry about what you guys think, because surely we've all seen quote unquote hillbillies. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh God, yeah.
I don't know if white folks get bent out of shape when white folks are shown in that kind of a light on television or, you know, in the media.
I've seen them.
I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen them. I just think they just separate themselves. Like they know that they're, because I've seen them. Oh yeah, we're not like that. Like I've heard them talk about them like they're almost another race. Like they have nothing to do. They're like, oh yeah, you know, the ones that, you know, missing teeth and, you know, like they just go in about it. So
no association to them at all. So once I really got to that point and I understood that had nothing to do with me, and I was really concerned about what white folks would think, I was like, you know, I don't care about that.
And I think I'm at the point I really don't, you know, but I just be like, damn, really? You could have did better. You know, I just be like, you know.
Right. So there is that part of me that still wants us to be better. Well, you know, we live in a climate now, and we'll get to that in another chapter later down the line, in the difficult conversations chapter of the book. But we live in a time now, the climate now is that if a black person speaks up and out about another black person, we attack the black person that speaks up about it. It's almost like how dare you try to make us accountable? It's like, for example, like we've seen it with the whole R. Kelly thing. When I had the girl, one of the co-founders of the R. Kelly movement here, you remember? And she's gotten death threats, all kinds of things. Because it's like, how dare you, black woman, try to bring this black man down? We see it as trying to bring all black men down. No, we're trying to bring him down. What he has going on. This is not about all black men. And so we've seen this kind of recurring kind of cycle. It's like, well, are we supposed to just let these things happen and nobody is supposed to speak up? Long before this whole thing happened with Bill Cosby, and well, it had happened, but we didn't know about it publicly. Remember, years ago, he had admitted in a deposition that he was, you know, slipping Quaaludes in those women's drinks and this, that, and the third. But long before it became public, remember he was on that tour and he was going around talking about black parents need to do a better job of parenting and how black boys needed to pull their pants up and all y'all do is spend your social security or welfare checks on Jordans and shit. Remember he was saying all of that? Black folks was eating his ass alive. It was the truth, but we didn't want to hear it. It was like, how do you get up there and say that in front of these white people? Yeah. We didn't want to hear it. And so so for me, I remember thinking back then, because I know who I am as you know what I'm saying? Like, I know that I'm the kind of person that would try to say something gently like that, but I can see me being attacked. It's just like, well, how do we correct ourselves? It's almost like we can't even correct each other without being attacked by other black people. Right. So how do we improve as a community if we can't even hold each other to a standard? Right. So, you know, and that wasn't really a question. That was more rhetorical. You know what I'm saying? That was more things that I kind of thought about, you know, and it's just like, I don't understand how, because the same is true with black gay men. Like there are things that I feel that we could do better about as a community or better on. But as soon as you say it in a public forum, it's, well, all black gay men are not like, well, hold on, niece. Nobody said all black gay men are that way. But this actually happens because I've had this conversation in so many different circles. And so, but how do we correct the behavior? Because what ends up happening is instead of us focusing, whether you're talking about black people or talking about black gay men or whatever the story is, whenever you try to focus on the issue, the conversation shifts from the issue to why it happens. Well, you know, it happens because black men, you know, they get it harder in this country. And we understand all of that. We understand the systemic issues. But how do we correct it if we keep shifting to why it's happening? We get why it's happening. Black men have it harder in this country. Black women have it harder in this country. Black people overall. But how do we correct it if we can't ever have the conversation without shifting it to something else?
Yeah, it's almost like the sandwich approach. It's almost like, do we have more spaces where we're hitting the issue, or are we celebrating? You know, do we get in a space where we celebrate, hit the issue, and go back to celebration, or this is what you're doing good, but let's work on this. But in the end, we're doing good. Let's keep pushing. You get what I'm saying?
Because then it becomes, well, if a black person can't speak up about an issue, and we damn sure don't want to hear it from somebody white, but then who can speak up about it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think a lot of times now, a lot of issues, we go forward and we're protesting, we're doing everything else, and then it dies down. It is never addressed again until something else happens, and then we're all protesting, rah, rah, rah. We're not personally not sticking to our guns with a lot of stuff. We're getting an uproar about all of this, but then it dies down until something else happens. I mean, like the NFL. I mean, we were all in an uproar about the kneeling and all this other stuff.
Gucci, belt,
Gucci, you know, all that stuff, and you know that's a short lived. And then here we go. Here's Jay-Z, and we're all watching the what was it called, the Super Bowl, and he was there, and Kaepernick got his money, and you know it was just like, okay, now we're back watching football. Now they're back standing up, and the point is, are we still not protesting? Their, you know, the what it boiled down to was the police, the modern day lynching was what it boiled down to. And it's like, okay, are we still on that, or what is, you know, it died down, you know, and then until something else happened.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean,
it's still going on. Don't get me wrong, but it's not as big as it was, you know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah. That's a tough one. It really is.
Maybe it's because it doesn't work, or they feel like it doesn't make enough movement, or is it like they do it and then everybody stopped wearing Gucci? Well, Gucci was still in business. It didn't really,
Well, when it comes to black stuff, but then you got the Me Too movement, and that's still stronger than ever. You know, that's we having all kind of meetings and human resource meetings just so we know we're not getting Me Too'd and stuff. But when it comes to something, when it's black, it's good momentum. We get the celebrities behind it, we get everything, and then next thing you know, it dies down.
Right.
Until something else happened. But Me Too, it's even made it to corporate America where they done changed the whole handbook about sexual harassment because of the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
So. But
when it comes to issues that are central to us as a people, that's something that we're going to have to figure out. And it's like we can't just expect white folks to just get it. You know what I'm saying? And like I said before, I'm beyond trying to explain and over-explain. And, I just think that's why independence is so important. And somebody mentioned earlier, that they make a concerted effort to support Black-owned businesses. And this is why I always say that when I come on here. I'm not just saying support my Black-owned business. I'm saying support Black businesses, period. Because that was the premise of Black Wall Street. Everything that we needed was right there, and it was burned down. For those of you that are not familiar with Black Wall Street, go ahead and Google it. Google Black Wall Street. It was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they burned it down. We had our own banks. We had our own grocery stores. Everything was we were self-contained, and there were millionaires and all of that, and it was burned down. But so anyway, so that concludes the conversation for the dedication for Book of Jewels.
All right.
Next Friday, if you're interested in joining, if listen, get your hair done. Some of why I can't come on because
they already knew.
Oh wait, you look at me. I'm natural. I don't care.
Right, we're having a conversation. We're having smart talk. So we're going to be here next Friday, and we're going to be discussing chapter 1 called Life. Chapter 1 is called Life. So if you haven't ordered Book of Jewels, please go ahead and purchase the book. The website is down there. It's going across the screen, or you can download the Audible or the digital version, or go through Amazon, however you want to purchase it. What was I going to say? I was going to say something else. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you, Andrew and Toshi. I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. And we'll be here next Friday with the same, with the next chapter. And so please have your headphones so that you can come on and enjoy, engage in the conversation. And I think that's all I wanted to say. Brush your teeth, floss your teeth, and brush your tongue. Thank you guys so very much for supporting. Yes, headphones are mandatory. Thank you so very much for supporting what I do, and thank you for being here. I appreciate you so very much. And please enjoy. Invite your friends next time, because we still on this little lockdown. So invite your friends or family members to come in and join. If you have a book club, you can join in the conversation as well, because we can bring in about 8 or 9 people, I believe it is. Somebody said, "What's the PO box again?" Here it is, right here, Nee. See it scrolling across the bottom? Hey, girl, hey. See it scrolling across the bottom? Thank you, CC Robinson. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys for joining. You guys have an amazing weekend. Have an amazing weekend. Thanks and love you, sweet cakes. Good night, pen pals. Thank you so very much for joining. I appreciate you guys. And thank you guys for supporting what I do. I appreciate it. And hopefully something we said tonight will resonate with you guys. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.